The Christmas lights in my mother's living room glowed warm and soft, tinting the walls gold and making the whole place smell like pine, cinnamon, and nostalgia. I wasn't sure I deserved. I hovered near the tree, trying to blend into the decorations, wishing the night would pass without anyone noticing the exhaustion I carried like an extra coat. My name is Lena Carter. I'm 28, and until a few months ago, I was a paramedic, the kind of job that teaches you both how fragile people are and how fast everything can fall apart. I tugged at the sleeve of my secondhand sweater, smoothing a frayed thread, when my brother Marcus swaggered across the room with a glass of mulled wine in hand and that familiar smirk that always meant trouble. "Look at you," he announced loudly enough to hush the conversation behind him. "Trying to dress up, huh? But who are you kidding? You're just homeless." A couple of relatives gave stiff, nervous laughs, the kind people make when cruelty comes disguised as a joke. My chest tightened. Mom's eyes darted between us like she wanted to speak, but couldn't climb over the shame in the room. Marcus gave my shoulder a hearty slap, as if humiliation were a sibling bonding ritual. "It's called temporary," I muttered, staring at the floor. He snorted. "What's temporary about living in your car for half a year?" I felt the room dim, the glow of the ornaments suddenly too sharp, too bright. Marcus drifted away, proud of himself, leaving me stranded in the center of the living room like the punchline to a joke I never agreed to be part of. I inhaled slowly, the kind of breath I'd once taken before telling a family their loved one wasn't coming home. I shouldn't have come. I should have stayed in the parking lot with my cold sandwich and worn blanket. I just started toward the hallway, ready to escape unnoticed, when the front door slammed open, winter wind sweeping in like a warning. My cousin Emma stumbled inside, cheeks flushed from the cold, breath coming fast like she'd sprinted all the way from her car. "Where's Marcus?" she said, her voice sharp, urgent. Something happened. Something big. The air shifted. Conversations died. Even the Christmas lights seemed to flicker. And in an instant, Marcus's mocking words vanished, replaced by a tension that cut through the gingerbread-scented warmth like a blade. Emma's eyes darted around the room until they landed on me. She rushed forward, grabbing my arm with cold fingers that trembled. "Lena, it's Dad," she whispered. "He collapsed in the driveway. I think it's bad." The paramedic in me surged up before the panic could swallow her words. Training is a strange thing. It sits dormant until the world tilts, and then it snaps awake like a command. I didn't think about Marcus or the relatives who just watched me be humiliated. I thought about airway, breathing, circulation. "Where is he now?" I asked, already moving. "Outside. Marcus ran back out when it happened. He's trying to, I don't know, help him or something." "Marcus trying to help?" I muttered under my breath. "That's new." We pushed through the front door together, cold air knifing into my lungs. The driveway was lit only by the dim glow spilling from the house and the blinking red taillights of Emma's car, left running crookedly by the curb. Snowflakes drifted lazily, but the scene felt too sharp, too real. Uncle Rob lay flat on the ground near the garage, his face ghost pale against the dark asphalt. Marcus knelt beside him, his breath puffing in frantic bursts, hands hovering uselessly over their father's chest. I don't know what happened," Marcus stammered when he saw me. "He just grabbed his chest and went down. I tried. He's not responding." For a moment, he wasn't the smug older brother. He was just a scared son, eyes wide, voice breaking. "Move," I said gently but firmly, dropping to my knees in the snow. "Let me in." Marcus scrambled back, giving me space. I checked Uncle Rob's airway, tilted his head, listened for breathing. Nothing. No rise of the chest, no pulse beneath my fingers. "Emma," I said, keeping my voice steady even as my heart hammered. "Call an ambulance now." She fumbled for her phone. I positioned my hands in the center of his chest and began compressions, hard, rhythmic, the way muscle memory demanded snow melted beneath my knees. My breaths formed clouds over him every time I counted under my breath. 1, 2, 3. Marcus hovered beside me, hands shaking violently. Lena, can you fix him? Please, please tell me you can fix him. I didn't look up. I'm doing everything I can. The night seemed to grow colder with each compression. The world narrowed to the sound of my breathing, the thud of my palms, and the desperate hope that somewhere beneath my hands, a spark still waited, and then, halfway through another cycle, Uncle Rob jerked, a weak gasp forcing its way through frozen air. He's breathing, Emma cried, but I shook my head. Agonal, not real breathing, stay with me. Marcus knelt beside his father, tears spilling freely now. He caught my sleeve, voice breaking. Lena, thank you. I kept working. And somewhere in the blur of minutes and terror, sirens began to rise in the distance, growing louder, closer, slicing through the winter night like salvation. The paramedics spilled out of the ambulance the moment it skidded to a stop, boots crunching on the icy driveway. Red and blue lights splashed across the snow, across my hands, across Uncle Rob's ashen face. I shifted back as they took over, but one of them, a tall woman with a calm voice, gave me a quick, sharp nod. Good compressions, she said. You probably bought him the few minutes he needed. Her words should have felt comforting, but adrenaline was still roaring in my ears. I stood slowly, my knees stiff, my palms numb from both the cold and force of the compressions. Marcus hovered beside me, his breath ragged, eyes shining with terror and something else. Something fragile, almost apologetic. They loaded Uncle Rob onto the stretcher, oxygen mask in place, IV already running. Emma trailed behind, wiping tears with the sleeve of her coat. We'll meet you at Mercy General, one of the medics called out. We'll do everything we can. And then they were gone, swallowed into the speeding ambulance that carved a bright streak through the dark, silent street. The driveway felt emptier once the sirens faded, like the night had swallowed its own echo. I stood there breathing clouds of steam, staring at the wet imprint of where my knees had been pressed into the snow. Marcus sank onto the curb, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. The cocky older brother who mocked me 20 minutes ago was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. I sat beside him. For a moment, we just listened to the wind whistle through the bare branches. Finally, Marcus lifted his head. His voice shook. I didn't know what to do. I just froze. He looked at me like he wanted me to help him, but I didn't know how. You called for help, I said softly. That's something. He swallowed hard and looked at me like he wanted to say more but couldn't quite get the words out. I rubbed my hands together, trying to get warmth back into my fingers, the ache of compressions settling deep into my bones. You still have your paramedic instincts, he murmured, even after they let you go. I flinched. The memory burned. Budget cuts, burnout, a mistake that wasn't entirely my fault, but felt like it anyway. Losing the job had been the first domino. Losing the apartment came next. The car became home. The shame followed everywhere. Yeah, I said quietly. Guess so. Marcus's shoulders sagged. Lena, I'm sorry for what I said inside. His breath hitched. I didn't mean, well, I did mean it, but I shouldn't have. I was angry. Jealous, maybe. You've always been the brave one. The one who could handle things. Tonight just proved it. I stared at him. Snowflakes landed in his hair, melting instantly, jealous. Of me, the homeless sister. Before I could respond, Mom appeared in the doorway, clutching her coat around herself. Her eyes were wide, frightened, darting between us. Come on, she said, voice trembling. We need to get to the hospital. Marcus stood and offered me his hand. For the first time in a long while, I took it. Hospitals have a particular kind of silence, one that hums beneath fluorescent lights and smells faintly of antiseptic and fear. As we pushed through the doors of Mercy General, that familiar weight settled on my shoulders, the hum of machines and distant paging crackling in my ears like echoes from my past life. Emma was already there, pacing near the front desk. The moment she spotted us, she hurried over. "They took him into emergency cardiac. They're doing scans. No one's telling me anything." Mom wrapped her in a tight hug, murmuring soft reassurances. Marcus hovered beside me, hands shoved deep into his pockets, face drawn tight as if any wrong word might crack him open. I led them toward the chairs outside the cardiac wing. Plastic, too bright, too cold. We sat, and then came the waiting, the restless tapping of shoes, the sound of someone crying behind a curtain down the hall. Marcus kept glancing my way, chewing his lip, then looking away again like he wasn't sure if he had the right to speak. Finally, he exhaled sharply. "You know," he said, voice low, "I used to tell people my sister was a hero. Back when you were still with EMS, I'd brag about you, all the time." The confession hit me sideways. I stared at him. He stared at the floor. "But when things fell apart," he continued, "I didn't know how to handle it. It was easier to make fun of you than admit I was scared for you, and angry at myself for not being someone you could come to." I blinked. "Marcus, I never asked you to fix anything." "Yeah, well," he muttered, "maybe I should have at least tried." I swallowed hard. Hospitals had always forced people to tell the truth, like the walls squeezed honesty out of them, maybe because life and death sat so close together inside them. Mom slid into the seat beside me, eyes soft. "Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us how bad things were? We would have helped. Your family." The words scraped something inside me, something raw. "I didn't want to be a burden," I said. "After losing the job, the apartment, I didn't want everyone to look at me the way Marcus did tonight." Marcus flinched. "Don't lump them in with me. I don't know who I was being." "A jerk," Emma said bluntly, folding her arms. "A huge one." Despite the tension, a tiny laugh escaped my mother. A trembling, exhausted laugh that made the others crack small smiles too. Even Marcus managed one. Before any of us could say more, a doctor approached, clipboard tucked under his arm. His face was serious but not grim, which sent a flicker of hope through my chest. "Rob Carter?" he said. We all stood at once. "He's stable," the doctor continued. "He suffered a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, but we were able to restore blood flow. He's sedated now, but he's going to make it." Mom covered her mouth, tears springing instantly. Emma sagged with relief. Marcus let out a shaky breath like he'd been holding air hostage for an hour. And then the doctor turned to me. "You did excellent work in the field," he said. "Those compressions kept him viable until EMS arrived. Whoever trained you did well." Trained me past tense. The words stung unexpectedly. Marcus looked at me with something like awe, real, unfiltered awe. "You saved our dad," he whispered. I wasn't ready to accept that, not yet. But the warmth in the doctor's voice, my family's eyes on me, something inside my chest loosened for the first time in months. "Can we see him?" Mom asked. "2 at a time," the doctor said. "He won't wake yet, but he'll hear you." He walked away, and we moved closer together, the 4 of us standing in a circle that felt repaired, not perfect, not healed, but stitched enough to hold. Marcus nudged my shoulder gently. "You go first," he said. "You earned it." And for once, I didn't argue. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of monitors and the gentle rise and fall of machines that breathed for Uncle Rob. I stepped inside quietly, the door clicking shut behind me. The air felt warm and dry, a contrast to the cold night outside, and for a moment I just stood there, watching the steady rhythm of his heart tracing a green pulse across the screen. I moved closer to the bed, my footsteps soundless on the linoleum. His face looked older somehow, lined, fragile, pale, but peaceful in a way I hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. I reached for his hand, careful not to disturb the IV line, and wrapped my fingers gently around his. "Hey," I whispered. "It's Lena." His eyelids didn't flicker, but I kept talking anyway. My voice felt steadier than I expected. "You scared everyone tonight, Marcus especially. You should have seen him. He was practically vibrating." A soft smile touched my lips. He'll never admit it, but he was terrified, and I guess I remembered who I used to be. The machines hummed. The room smelled faintly of alcohol wipes and filtered air. "I miss it," I said quietly. "Being out there, helping people, feeling like I mattered." The confession slipped out before I could stop it. Losing the job, it took more from me than I thought. I brushed a thumb over his knuckles. "But tonight, you gave me a little of it back, and you're not allowed to pull a stunt like this just to remind me. Got it?" A soft knock on the door made me glance over my shoulder. Marcus stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, face still swollen from crying, but he looked steadier now, anchored. "Mom wants to come in next," he said softly. "But can I talk to you first?" I nodded and stepped aside from the bed. He walked in slowly, eyes on his father, emotion tightening his jaw. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured. "I was jealous, angry, lost. And it was easier to aim all that at you." He swallowed, his voice thickening. "But after tonight, I don't want us to be like that anymore." I leaned against the counter, arms folded. "Neither do I." He hesitated. Then, unexpectedly, he pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat pocket and handed it to me. "I talked to the doctor," he said. "He told me you were working with EMS before everything happened, and, well, I called in a favor." I frowned, opening the paper. It was a referral, an official one, to a re-entry program for medical first responders, a path back into the field. A path back to the job I'd thought I'd lost forever. I stared at him. "Marcus, how did you—" "Doesn't matter." He shrugged. "Just don't give up on yourself yet. You're too good at this. Dad's alive because of you. And maybe this is your second chance." Emotion welled unexpectedly, my throat tightening. I looked back at Uncle Rob, then at Marcus. "Thank you," I whispered. He nodded, eyes shining again. "You deserve a life better than a car seat." A breath escaped me, half laugh, half sob, one step at a time. He smiled, the first real soft smile I could remember from him in years. "Come home for a while. Mom's spare room is yours. No more freezing nights in parking lots." I hesitated, something inside me trembling. Hope, maybe, or the fear of hoping too much. But then I nodded. "Okay," I said. "Yeah, okay." Marcus exhaled like he'd been waiting forever to hear that. He stepped forward and, awkwardly, pulled me into a hug I let him. And for once, it felt right. When he stepped away, he gestured to the door. "Come on, Mom's next." I took one last look at Uncle Rob, squeezed his hand gently and whispered, "See you when you wake up." Then I stepped into the hallway, a warm current spreading through me, a feeling I hadn't held in months. Not certainty, not perfection, but direction. And for the first time since everything fell apart, that was enough.